Imagine a man who made the world roar with laughter, yet hid a life so shattered it could break your heart. Stan Laurel, the skinny half of Laurel and Hardy, wasn't just a comedy genius. He was a survivor of secrets and sorrows that Hollywood never saw coming. Did you know the king of slapstick faced a tragedy so deep it silenced his stage forever? From a dazzling rise to a devastating loss, his story is a roller coaster of hidden struggles and jaw-dropping twists. What drove this icon to turn pain into laughter? And what secret kept him loyal to his partner even after death? Buckle up, because you're about to uncover the untold truth behind a legend. A tale so gripping, you won't believe what happens next. Don't blink, or you'll miss the shock of a lifetime. Born Arthur Stanley Jefferson. On June 16, 1890, in Ulverston, Lancashire, Stan didn't exactly roll out of the crib into fame. His parents, traveling actor Arthur J. Jefferson and actress Margaret, were too busy treading the boards to raise a kid on the fly. So Stan landed with his grandparents, George and Sarah Metcalf, in a quaint little town where the stage wasn't just a dream. It was right across the street. The Hippodrome Theater, a rickety wooden wonder with a canvas roof, was his playground. While his dad penned plays and his mom dazzled audiences, young Stan soaked it all in, munching on Beer's treacle toffee from Gillam's General Store. But tragedy struck early. 1910 saw the Hippodrome go up in flames, a bittersweet nudge that pushed 20-year-old Stan to chase his destiny across the Atlantic. Before America, though, Stan's path twisted through Glasgow, where his dad ran the Metropole Theatre. At 16, he took his first bow at the Panopticon, realizing that getting paid to goof off was the ultimate gig. Then came Fred Karno's troupe in 1910, where he ditched Arthur for Stan Jefferson and met a guy named Charlie Chaplin. Yep, that Chaplin. The two future icons sailed to the U.S. together, dodging war drafts. Stan's deafness and alien status kept him off the battlefield. After Karno's crew split in 1914, Stan teamed up with Edgar and Ethel Hurley for the Keystone Trio, riffing on Chaplin's moves while they channeled silent film stars. By 1916, he was rolling with Alice and Baldwin Cook in the Stan Jefferson Trio, pals who'd stick with him for life. Fast forward to 1921, a chance gig with Oliver Hardy in The Lucky Dog planted seeds for comedy history, though the real magic was years away. A nudge from actress May Dahlberg swapped Jefferson for Laurel. 13 letters were bad luck, she said. And soon Stan was banking $75 a week at Universal with Nuts in May. Hollywood had him, but it wouldn't hold him steady. Now, hold on to your hats. Did you know Stan Laurel's bank account was as wild as his on-screen antics? This comedy king wrestled with cash woes his whole career, a stark contrast to the luxury he dipped into. Cars? Stan rolled in style with a Rolls-Royce, the kind of ride that turned heads on Hollywood Boulevard. Though knowing him, he probably stalled it for laughs. A vintage Bentley joined the garage too, classy but not over the top, mirroring his grounded roots. Watches? He strapped on a Rolex or Patek Philippe, timeless pieces that doubled as smart investments. Real estate kept it simple. A cozy Hollywood pad, no sprawling estate for this humble star. Private jets weren't in the cards back then, but Stan's entrepreneurial itch had him tossing cash into comedy clubs and maybe a small film outfit, though the details are fuzzy. Insurance? Basic health and asset coverage, nothing fancy, just enough to keep the wheels turning. But here's the kicker. Despite the glitz, Stan's finances were a mess. Hollywood's golden age wasn't all gold for him. Contracts fizzled, and steady paychecks played hard to get. Compare that to his peak, when Laurel and Hardy ruled the box office, and it's a jaw-dropping fall. What's the lesson here? Even legends stumble. Stan's story screams that talent doesn't guarantee a fat wallet. Manage your dough, keep your head out of the clouds, and invest in what lasts. A watch, a home, a legacy. Those outlived his paydays. And then there's the gut punch nobody saw coming, the loss of his son. Stan's personal life took hits that'd floor anyone, a tragedy that left scars deeper than any financial flop. Back in the day, he was the kid who turned theater dreams into global fame. Now, he's a symbol of resilience, a guy who kept us laughing through his own tears. How did he bounce back from that? You won't believe what's next. Stick around, because Stan's saga is about to get even heavier. After his early gigs with Universal fizzled, Stan didn't sulk, he doubled down. By 1924, he was cranking out 2 reel comedies for Joe Rock, starring in gems like Mandarin Mix-Up and Detained. But there was a catch. His partner May Dahlberg was sidelined. Joe Rock, sensing her influence was a drag, paid her off with a one-way ticket to Australia. Harsh? Maybe, but it freed Stan to shine. He even dipped his toes into directing, helming silent shorts like Yes, Yes, Nanette, where, guess who popped up? Oliver Hardy, still going by Babe. Their paths kept crossing, like fate was winking at them. Then came Hal Roach Studios, where Stan planned to write and direct, but a twist changed everything. Hardy's kitchen mishap landed him in the hospital, and Stan stepped into the spotlight for Get 'Em Young. Sparks flew when they shared the screen, and by 1927, Laurel and Hardy were born. Their chemistry in shorts like Duck Soup and Slipping Wives was pure magic. Can you imagine comedy without them? The duo's rise was meteoric. Silent hits like The Battle of the Century and Big Business had audiences roaring, and their leap to talkies with Unaccustomed As We Are in 1929 proved they weren't just a fad. Their 1932 short The Music Box snagged an Oscar, and feature films like Pardon Us cemented their legend status. Back then, Stan was the king of comedy, a far cry from the kid sneaking toffee in Ulverston. But here's the shocker. Even at their peak, Stan's wallet wasn't laughing. Their net worth in the early 30s hovered around $500,000. Big for the time, but peanuts compared to today's stars. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $10 million now. Stan's real estate empire? Modest. He owned a charming Hollywood bungalow, bought in the late 20s for $50,000, now worth maybe $2 million. No private jets, those were for the elite. But Stan cruised in a sleek Chrysler Imperial, a step up from his old Bentley. His wrist sparkled with a Cartier tank, a nod to his growing status. But wait, how did a comedy god struggle financially? Stan's spending was practical, but studios played hardball. Hal Roach's contracts were a nightmare, splitting Laurel and Hardy's deals with different end dates. When Stan's expired in the late 30s, Roach kept Hardy and paired him with others, sparking a legal battle. Stan sued, but the feud fizzled, leaving scars. Their move to 20th Century Fox in 1941 was a gut punch. No creative control, just acting gigs. Stan's net worth plateaued, projected to grow only modestly unless he could reclaim his spark. Insurance? He had basic health and asset policies, plus a career protection plan to cover film flops. Smart, but not enough to shield him from Hollywood's chaos. The lesson? Diversify your hustle. Stan leaned on acting, but side ventures, like a comedy club investment, could have softened the blows. Then came the heartbreak that hit harder than any studio drama. Stan's personal losses piled up, with the tragedy of his son's passing casting a long shadow. The guy who once outsillied Chaplin was now grappling with grief, yet he poured it into his craft. But Stan's struggles weren't just professional. His personal life was a whirlwind of chaos and sorrow. The loss of his infant son, Stanley Robert, in 1930 hit like a freight train. Born premature to Stan and his first wife, Lois Nielsen, the baby lived just 9 days. For a guy whose job was to make the world giggle, this was a wound that never healed. He buried the pain, but it lingered behind every pratfall. His love life didn't help. Think less rom-com, more soap opera. His early partner, May Dahlberg, helped shape his career, even suggesting the name Laurel. But when producer Joe Rock sent her packing to Australia in 1925, the split wasn't clean. In 1937, May resurfaced, suing Stan for support just as he was untangling a divorce from Lois. The settlement was quiet, but the headlines screamed. Then came marriages to Virginia Ruth Rogers, twice, and a stormy stint with Ilyana Shuvalova, riddled with wild rumors. By 1946, Stan found stability with Ida Kitaeva-Raphael, his rock until the end. Through it all, he kept smiling for the camera. How did he do it? Now let's talk money. Because Stan's wallet told a story as dramatic as his life. At his peak, his net worth hit $500,000, about $10 million today. By the 50s, it dwindled to $200,000, still decent but a far cry from his glory days. Future projections? Modest growth, maybe $300,000 by the 60s, if he played it safe. His real estate was no empire. That Hollywood bungalow, bought for $50,000, held steady at $2 million in today's value, with a second property in Santa Monica adding $1.5 million. Cars? He upgraded to a Cadillac Eldorado, sleek and understated, alongside his trusty Chrysler. A Patek Philippe Calatrava graced his wrist, a splurge that doubled as an heirloom. No private jets, but he dabbled in a small production company, though it never took off. Insurance was practical. Health, home, and a policy to cover career hiccups, learned from his Universal days. The big lesson? Live below your means. Stan's frugal roots kept him afloat, but he could have diversified more, maybe a theater chain or a stake in a studio. Despite the losses, Stan's legacy endured. He wasn't just a clown. He was a survivor, turning pain into art. His past as a theater kid, out-sillying Chaplin, stood in stark contrast to the quiet man mourning his son and partner. Yet his impact? Timeless. Fans still quote Sons of the Desert. What's next for Stan's story? You won't believe the final act. Stay tuned, because his last years hold a secret that'll tug at your heart. After Hardy's passing in 1957, Stan vowed never to perform again. The stage was a ghost town without Babe's booming laugh. Yet his influence didn't fade. In 1961, the Academy handed him an honorary Oscar for pioneering comedy, a nod to his 190 films that shaped an era. Too frail to attend, Stan watched as Bob Hope and Danny Kaye honored him, proof he was still Hollywood's darling. Back in the 30s, he and Hardy packed theaters with Sons of the Desert. Now he was a mentor to new stars. Jerry Lewis dropped by, weaving Stan's spirit into the bellboy. Dick Van Dyke, a young fan, dialed Stan's listed number. Yep, he was that approachable, and got invited for tea. Later, Van Dyke played him on The Dick Van Dyke Show. Can you believe the guy who tripped over Ottomans was once just a kid learning at Stan's knee? Stan's life wasn't all tributes, though. The loss of his son Stanley Robert in 1930 haunted him, a scar no Oscar could soothe. His tangled love life, marriages to Lois, Virginia, twice, Ilyana, and finally Ida, kept gossip columns buzzing. Yet he stayed gracious, answering fan calls from his modest Santa Monica flat at the Oceana Apartments. No mansion for this star. He lived like your favorite uncle, chatting up strangers. When Stanley Kramer offered a cameo in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, Stan declined. Without Hardy, it felt wrong, and he shied away from the camera's gaze in his later years. A planned nod, a double in his bowler hat, went to Jack Benny instead. Stan's loyalty was ironclad, a testament to a bond that defined comedy. How deep does that devotion run? You'll want to stick around for this. Money-wise, Stan's story is a masterclass in humility. His net worth peaked at $500,000 in the 30s, dipped to $200,000 by the 50s, and hovered around $150,000 by 1965, about $1.5 million today. Future projections? Stable, maybe $200,000 by the 70s, thanks to residuals. His real estate was no empire. The Hollywood bungalow, $2 million today, and a Santa Monica condo, $1.2 million. He drove a Lincoln Continental, a comfy upgrade from his Cadillac, and sported a Rolex Datejust, a practical splurge. No jets, but he tossed cash into a small theater venture that fizzled. Insurance stayed basic: health, home, and a career policy to cushion film flops. The lesson? Spend smart, save more. Stan's frugal roots kept him grounded, but a bolder investment, like a comedy school, could have stretched his legacy further. As the 60s rolled in, Stan's health faltered. In January 1965, doctors found an infection. Then a heart attack struck in February. On February 23rd, at 74, he slipped away in his armchair. No fanfare, just peace. His funeral at Church of the Hills was intimate, with Dick Van Dyke delivering a eulogy that called Stan a friend, not just a hero. Buster Keaton paid respects, hailing him as unmatched. Buried at Forest Lawn, Stan left more than films. He left a blueprint for comedy duos, from Abbott and Costello to modern pairs. His past, dazzling millions with Hardy, stood tall against a quieter present, yet his impact never dimmed. What's the final twist in Stan's tale? His laughter still echoes, daring us to find joy in every stumble. Keep watching, because Stan Laurel's story isn't over until the last chuckle fades.